Hello everyone, welcome back to the course Organizational Behavior for Business. So today's session will be discussing about the evolution of organizational behavior. So prior to that, I hope in the last last video would have understood about the nature as well as the scope of organization behavior, as well as we had discussed with the various contributing disciplines to organizational behavior, as well as the approaches to organizational behavior. So when we say about the evolution, though the practice of management can definitely be traced back to ancient times, say like during the era of building huge structures like pyramids in Egypt, it can be, as well as the temples in India or churches, or it can be the Taj Mahal. But the former discipline of management as we find it today, it evolved only during the later part of the 19th century. So by completing today's session related to the organizational behavior, that is the evolution of organizational behavior, you will be able to understand, or you will be able to learn whether different aspects like the industrial revolution, and then the scientific management, human relation movement, as well as the Hawthorne Studies, and finally the organizational behavior itself. So let's start with the presentation. I hope we'll be having a brief discussion about all these aspects, and you will be able to understand the evolution of organizational behavior. So let's see.
So welcome back once again. So here we are with one more concept in the module 1 of organization behavior for business. So today, in today's session, I'll be discussing about the evolution of organization behavior. So when we are saying evolution of organization behavior, we all know that there are different there are different fields of studies are there from thousands of years. It might be like physics, it can be, or chemistry, or any other kind of field. Similarly, management also exists from centuries. Okay, so until around 20th century, people were not seriously concerned about the field of management. Hence, the field of organization behavior is not very old actually. So when we are saying about the evolution of organization behavior, we are having here like various phases involved in historical development of organization behavior. It is like 5 stages are distinct in the evolution of evolution of organization behavior. So they are, the first one is industrial revolution, and then the scientific management, and then human relation movements. In that itself, we'll be having the Great Depressions, and then labor movement, and the other major important thing is the Hawthorne Studies, and finally the organization behavior itself. So we'll be discussing here one by one in detail, so that you will be understanding in a clear aspect regarding the evolution of organization behavior. So first, when we are speaking about the industrial revolution, we all know that industrial revolution played a significant role in contributing towards the potential improvement. Like industrial revolution resulted in many behavior phenomena like materialism, discipline, monotony, unexciting work, and transfer of job, work correlations, etc. So what happened here is industry produced the additional goods which resulted in enlarged wages of workers, shorter working hours, and more job satisfaction. So Robert Owen, a youthful factory owner around in 1800, was the first person who focused on the personal needs of employees. He rejected to employ young people. He taught his workers the importance of sanitation, self-control, as well as he enhanced the employment conditions also. So it was the Robert was called as the father of personal management. And later on, there were many people who were there into this particular aspect, the industrial revolution. And the major was that at the same time, J.M. Tata started giving attention to the well-being of workers. Therefore, he installed fire extinguishers and humidifiers for the first time in his factory. So he also initiated pension funds in 1886 and also started to pay the compensation for accidents in 1895 and all. So from the viewpoints of Owen, Urey, and Tata were either slowly accepted or rejected, they often became like a paternalistic and do good approach rather than truly determining the value of employees at the workplace. So this was all about the industrial revolution. And next, if you are seeing the scientific management, so we all know that F.W. Taylor, as a scientist, made several research regarding how people can be effectively utilized. He observed during his research that main reason for ineffectiveness and wastage in factories was that both workers and managers were not aware about the scientific methods. So he's appropriately called as the father of scientific management, and he converted both generalisms into practical tools. We have already seen with the different principles given by Taylor, like replacing the rule of thumb, it can be then harmony in group action, cooperation between management and workers, maximum output in place of restricted output, and then development of workers through scientific selection and training. So Trainer, as we all know, he advocated the selection of right people for the right jobs, training them adequately, placing them in jobs for which they were best suited, and remunerating them in a handsome manner. So scientific management has been criticized by many scholars due to its following shortcomings for the workers as well as the employers. So this was about the scientific management. And then next important concept came was the human relation movement. So this human relation movement emerged due to the failure of the scientific management theory, and it gives great importance to assistance and the morale of the employees. So here, human relation movement, which is characterized by heavy emphasis on employee cooperation and morale. Under this, people were to be treated as human beings and not as machines, or listening to their needs and problems and involving them in decision making in matters relating to the working conditions. So this movement emphasized the employee should not be considered as machine, rather than they should be treated as human beings. So proper attention should be given to the needs and problems of employees, and they should be involved in decision making, so that what happens is the people will be feeling like they are the part of the organization. Okay, so here during this time, the Great Depression, labor movement, and the findings of Hawthorne Studies are some of the major contributions in the human relation movement. So when we are speaking about the Great Depression, actually it originated from the stock exchange crash which occurred in 1929 in US. The outcome of the depression was huge unemployment, decrease of purchasing power, and decline of standard of living people. This phenomena was not only limited to America but also prevalent worldwide, right? So what happened after this was labor movement again, ongoing exploitation of workers, which made them realize that they need to raise their voice in order to survive. So there was different aspect related to the human relation movement also. So the human relation role are often came about from the wrong reasons. In too many cases, it was forced on managers by labor, threatening them with the consequences of non-compliances. And after this was the Hawthorne experiments actually. The Hawthorne experiments governed the human relation movement. Although Great Depression and the labor movement were initiators of human relation practices, the Hawthorne studies gave the academic position to the study of organization behavior. This study was undertaken by the Western electrical companies, Hawthorne workers in Cicero, a suburb of Chicago, and are linked with the name of Elton Mayo. You can see over here the Elton Mayo. Mayo was the professor of industrial research at Harvard School of Business Administration, and he was mainly responsible for the executing these studies and spreading the importance of these studies. So thus Elton Mayo is called as the father of human relation movement. So Hawthorne studies, it include 4 different interconnected experiments. You can see 4 experiments were there. So first was regarding the illumination experiments. So it was named illumination experiment because a light was selected by the researchers for conducting the study and to examine the link between physical factor and productivity. So you can see here the method adopted for this experiment were First of all, two separate group of employees were chosen. Then one group was asked to work under steady light and other group was asked to work under the inconsistent light. Aim of this experiment was to analyze the impact of lighting on productivity. So the researchers were amazed by the result, as the candle power variation of light did not influence the productivity. As the productivity of both groups increased, so they recognized that not the illumination but some other factor affected the productivity. So illumination study, it designed to test the effect of lighting intensity on worker productivity. It influences work relation on, it influences on human relation on work behavior. And the second one was a relay assembly test room. So here the main aim of this experiment was to discover the physical elements that affect the productivity of workers. So the method adopted were, first of all, 6 female employees were responsible for assembling telephones were chosen. Then researchers modified several factors in physical environment to determine the impact of the factors of their productivity. The physical factors that were modified include the working hours of work, that is increased or decreased, rest intervals, enhanced physical condition, temperature, and particularly type of group incentives. So these employees were working in isolation away from the plant. So employees were not supervised, but they were under researchers' observation. So finally, researchers found that there was no effective relationship between any of these factors and productivity. Even after so many manipulations, the productivity increased continuously. So to determine the effect of changes in various job conditions of group activity, relay assembly test room study was conducted. And the next one was the interviewing program. So the main aim of interviewing program was to identify the factors affecting productivity. Hence, around 2,000 interviews for 2,000 employees, interviews were carried out by the researchers. A questionnaire was given to the employees and they were asked to respond without any hesitation. Thus, the result of these interviews explain the relevance of social factors on the working environment. So, investigate connection between the supervisor practice and the employee morale. Employees express their attitude towards the company, supervisor, insurance plan, promotions and wages, likes and dislike. All these aspects were involved in the interviewing program. And the last experiment conducted by Elton Mayo was bank wiring room observation experiment. So the basic objective of researcher was to identify the actual determinant affecting productivity. So this method adopted by researchers were 14 employees were selected by the researchers, and production records of these employees were compared with the earlier production records. So outcome of this experiment was each individual was limiting output. Group had decided its own informal performance standards, and output of each individual remained somewhat stable for a particular period. So record of each department were distorted due to the variation between actual and reported output. So this variation was also between the standard and the reported working time. So social groups can influence production and individual work behavior. How is social control manifested on the shop floor? So to understand all these aspects, bank wiring observation room experiment was conducted. So that's about the Hawthorne study. And the final aspect, the last evolution, that is after Hawthorne studies, that it's by the way, the fact that can't be denied that the Hawthorne experiment played a very significant role in making the business organization realize the value and need of human factors. So that was the major outcome of this particular studies and all. So finally, the evolution stopped over here, that is the organization behavior. So we all know that human relation movement prospered for a long period of time, but the movement grew so fast that it became faded and meaningless after some time. So some of the managers began to focus on the smiling or being good to others, while the same time what happened is they were cleverly controlling the employees. So thus human relation movement was seriously criticized. So in the course of time, the term human relation, as I said before, it lost its flavor, although it continues to be used especially at the operating level because of its appropriateness. So as the field became more mature and researcher based, the new term that arose to describe it was organization behavior. Experts traced these developments to the late 1950s and early 1960s. So what happened is at that time of human relation lost its importance. As I said before, in the 1950s and 1960s, the term organization behavior came into existence. So since 1916, organization behavior proceeded forward. However, there were certain backward steps as well. In 1960s and 70s, major focus was on motivation and leadership theories, job design, job satisfaction. And in 1980s, and the focus shifted towards the organization culture, teamwork, and politics. In 1990s, the attention shifted towards the individual honesty, character, virtue, ethics, and positive psychology. And in 2000, since 2000, Fred Luthans has comprehended positive psychology with his focus on positive organizational behavior, which has given importance to confidence, hopefulness, positivity, and other positive traits of uh, associated with the work. So managers increasingly recognize the value of human resource and strive to better understand the people and their role in complex organization and competitive business situation. So this realization has come from the subject organization behavior. So this was all about the evolution of organization behavior. So it started from the industrial revolution, and then scientific management, and then human relation movements, Hawthorne studies, and finally it is organization behavior itself. So thank you for patiently listening till now. Thank you once again.